If there was a most perfect daughter contest, my parents would ship me off to Timbuktu and parade my sister Jessica down the streets with banners and confetti. Jessica, the flawless elder child, the high school valedictorian, and the track team captain, has always been the golden girl. I, on the other hand, am Emily, the younger, slightly weirder, and an infinitely less accomplished sibling. "You know 'em," Jessica used to say, a smirk playing on her lips. "You should really try harder. Make Mom and Dad proud for once." Her words, dripping with condescension, would lodge themselves in my brain. I'd grit my teeth and put on a smile. "Oh, I'm sorry, Jess. I forgot you held the monopoly on parental pride." My parents would laugh it off, always chuckling at our sibling rivalry. But beneath the banter, the sting of being the second choice was real. The family dinners where my small victories were overshadowed by Jessica's grand achievements, the school functions where I was known as Jessica's sister, and the endless comparisons. I suppose I should thank her, though. If it wasn't for Jessica, I wouldn't have discovered my talent for scheming, a skill that would serve me well in the years to come. For now, let's just say that Jessica wasn't the only one in the family who knew how to steal the spotlight. Fast forward to high school. Now, Brutus, a name only fit for a Shakespearean village or a bulldog, was the bane of my existence. He would relentlessly tease me, mock me, torment me, and do whatever he could to ruin my day. Every single day. From cracking cruel jokes about my braces in the 9th grade to spreading embarrassing rumors about me in the 12th. "Brace face Emily," he'd sneer. "How's the meadow mouth treating you?" I was the punchline to all his jokes, and the school loved him for it. It was infuriating. It felt like Jessica was taking over my life outside the house, too. But Brutus wasn't alone in his villainous escapades. His faithful sidekick, Luke, was always at his side. Unlike Brutus, though, Luke had a glimmer of decency. He would, on occasion, make sure I was all right after Brutus had left his mark. "Hey, Emily," he'd say, his eyes full of genuine concern. "You okay?" I was never sure why he cared. We weren't friends. We weren't even friendly. But there he was, day in and day out, showing a kindness that was a stark contrast to Brutus's cruelty. Maybe that's why I agreed when Luke came up to me with an odd request one day. "Emily, this may sound strange, but would you go to prom with Brutus?" he asked. I almost choked on my apple juice. Brutus? Asking me to prom? It seemed like another cruel prank. Luke must have sensed my disbelief because he quickly reassured me. "I know it sounds insane, but he really means it. Brutus can be different sometimes." I stared at Luke, trying to find the lie in his eyes, but all I saw was sincerity. And maybe it was the years of torment, or maybe it was the hope of finally getting the upper hand. But an idea began to form in my mind. "All right," I said, nodding slowly. "I'll go to prom with Brutus." And thus began my plan for the most epic revenge on my high school bully. Revenge that would leave Brutus and the entire school stunned. Revenge that would finally let me step out of Jessica's shadow. Revenge that would set me free. As we walked into the prom, Brutus's hand on my waist, I could see eyes turning our way. A smirk tugged at my lips as whispers followed us. They were wondering what the nerdy girl and the high school bully were doing together. But little did they know, we were the prom king and queen. "May I have your attention, please?" I called into the microphone standing next to Brutus on the prom stage. The room fell silent, all eyes trained on us. This was it, the moment I'd been waiting for. "I'd like to, propose something," I started out. My eyes flitted nervously over to Brutus, who was grinning like a cat that got the cream. The chatter in the room grew quiet as the anticipation built. I turned to Brutus, dropping down on one knee. "Brutus, will you marry me?" The room fell into stunned silence before erupting into chaos. Brutus looked like I'd slapped him across the face, and honestly, I kind of had. "What the hell, Em?" he stammered, his face beet red. "I thought you'd never ask." Luke chuckled, clapping Brutus on the back. He looked genuinely amused, the bastard. I'd have to thank him later for playing along. I could see Brutus's eyes darting between us, realization slowly dawning. He stuttered out, his eyes wide as saucers. I'd never seen him so disoriented, so humiliated. It was everything I've ever dreamed of. Yes or no, Brutus? I pushed, fighting back a grin. The crowd was silent again, waiting for his answer. Yes, he stuttered out finally, a look of utter defeat in his eyes. The crowd erupted into cheers and applause, but all I could focus on was the sweet taste of revenge. That night, I walked out of prom a legend, and the best part, it was only the beginning. My real plan, my ultimate revenge, was yet to unfold. The wedding preparations. My parents were stupefied, to say the least. You're going to marry Brutus, sweetie? The same Brutus who put a dead frog in your lunchbox? My mom had asked. Disbelief etched on her face. But I was resolute, and eventually they relented with very acceptance and a lot of head shaking. My sister Jessica, however, was the epitome of displeasure. You're making a mockery of yourself, Em, she sneered, but that only fueled my determination. If Jessica thought she could overshadow me on my wedding day, she was in for a surprise. Doesn't she look stunning? Jessica's syrup-sweet voice oozed into my ear as I walked down the aisle of vision and white. She waited for the right moment to steal my thunder, and it came during the speeches. Hogging the microphone, she announced, I'm pregnant. The room erupted in applause and cheerful hollers, but I was unfazed. Jessica's desperation to upstage me was painfully transparent. Of course she'd try to steal my limelight, I thought to myself, but she's playing into my hands. My revenge is just getting started. Brutus was at the altar, a grin plastered on his face. He thought he was the cat's meow, but he was about to become the sacrificial lamb. As I took the microphone, my heart pounded in my chest. I want to say something, I began, my voice trembling slightly. About Brutus and me. Silence settled over the room. All eyes were on me. I cleared my throat and continued. You all know Brutus, the life of the party, the man of the hour. But did you know he was my tormentor throughout high school? Gasps rippled through the crowd. I turned to Brutus, whose grin had vanished. Remember, Brutus? You were quite the bully, weren't you? I listed off his pranks, his cruelty, the incessant humiliation. With each admission, the crowd grew quieter, the air thicker. Brutus was a deer caught in the headlights, a bully unmasked. When I finished, I looked around at all the shocked faces. I remember the time you filled my locker with rotten eggs, I began, my voice echoing in the vast hall. I remember the day you put itching powder in my gym clothes. The afternoon you programmed my phone to autocorrect every word to, I'm a loser. The countless times you called me pimple face in front of everyone. I continued, my words a bitter poison. The day you stole my presentation and I had to face the humiliation of failing in front of the class. As I recited every single hurtful action, every torment, the crowd fell into a mortified silence. Their cheerful smiles turned into disbelieving frowns, then into horrified gasps. With each word, the mighty Brutus was shrinking, his confident posture wilting like a rose in the storm. But Brutus, I finally said, turning to face him, you're the biggest loser here. You're the bully who never grew up, the boy who mistook cruelty for strength. Suddenly, Brutus found his voice. Emily, he choked out. I didn't mean... No, Brutus, I interrupted, not allowing him to finish. You don't get to apologize now. Not after everything. Today, I'm saying enough. I tricked you into this, and I frickin' love how it turned out, I declared, throwing the microphone down. The clatter was deafening in the stunned silence. With that, I turned around, leaving Brutus standing at the altar, his mouth agape. But as I was about to step out of the church, I heard his booming voice. Emily, he shouted, you can't just... You can't just humiliate me like this. I paused, looking over my shoulder at the man who'd tormented me for years. Now, he was the one feeling the sting of public humiliation, the cruelty of being mocked and belittled. I just did, I retorted, a wicked smile tugging at the corner of my mouth. I then walked out of the church, leaving Brutus behind in his own chaos, his own version of hell that he'd so often put me through. Just as I was about to hail a taxi, a familiar voice called out, "Emily!" I turned around and saw Luke, Brutus's best friend, running towards me. I raised an eyebrow. "What do you want, Luke?" I asked, my voice hard. "Emily, that was, wow," he huffed out of his breath. "Nobody expected that." "Yeah, well, life's full of surprises, isn't it?" I retorted, sarcasm dripping from every word. But despite my biting words, I couldn't ignore the warmth in his eyes, the genuine concern. "Emily, you don't have to go through this alone," he said. I've always admired your strength. Let me help you." I looked at him surprised. Luke was the one who'd always been there after Brutus's pranks, lending a comforting word, a sympathetic ear. And now he was here, offering to stand by me? Could I trust him? My mind raced. Trust was a luxury I couldn't afford, not after everything. But Luke, he was different. He'd shown kindness when others showed scorn. "You know what, Luke?" I finally said, surprising even myself. "Let's get out of here." As the sun rose, marking the end of a turbulent day and the start of a new chapter, I finally understood something. My revenge had been about more than just humiliating Brutus or asserting my power. It had been a journey toward rediscovering myself, redefining my narrative. My story was no longer about a bully and his victim, but about a woman who found her strength, a woman who stood up to her tormentor, reclaimed her dignity, and in the process found an unexpected ally, a friend, and possibly something more.